Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Angle, where I talk about electronic music, both new and old. And today marks the 8-year anniversary of me having started this channel. So I think we know the usual tradition that I go with for all these channel anniversaries. It's time for the annual CD collection update. Yep, it's finally time for me to go through all the CDs that I purchased over the course of the past 12 months, and just do a lot of unscripted rambling about them as I do every year. Yeah, I don't really have any other prelude to it, so may as well just get into it. I guess one of the big elephants in the room over here is this is where the most recent CDs tending to go, because, gosh, there's just so much shelves. I'm running out of shelf space. I say that a lot of times, but I'm really starting to run out of shelf space. But yeah, one thing that I got a little after recording the last update was I got volumes 9 through 11 of Pete Namlick and Klaus Schultz's Dark Side of the Moog series. I already showed off the Volume 1 through 4 and Volume 5 through 8 box sets with the last update. This one, I got the rest of them. This also includes 2 extra CDs. One has Volume 11 in 5.1 surround sound, and the last one is Alive at Hamburg CD. I've not listened to either of those. Mainly because I don't have a 5.1 system. But yeah, I figured I should get those because it turns out that, especially when it came to Volume 9 and 11 from this series being a lot better than I had expected, I figured I should probably just have the complete series, and I ended up getting the rest of it. So there we have it. I think those 2 box sets are probably going to move up a little there so that I'll have more shelf room later. Another CD that came in right after I recorded the last update is this one. Italian Works by Lee Anthony Norris. He better known as Metamatics, Norkin, Knockplank. This is a compilation of, like, all this sort of, a whole bunch of the best of his, like, ambient stuff that he was putting out throughout, like, 2013 and 2014, when, obviously, he moved to Italy. So, like, there's stuff from here, from not only Autumn of Communion, stuff under his own name, stuff under Knockplank, also a bunch of his collaborations like Ashtoreth's Gate, Moss Garden, Ashes of Piemonte, The Angling Loser, etc. Excellent double compilation of a whole bunch of the moments from like his run of like 50 albums that he released in the course of like 2 years. This CD is also kind of fun to mention because this one in particular came in like immediately after I uploaded the CD update for year 7. Like, I edited the entire video, I uploaded it to YouTube, and immediately, like, not even 5 minutes after it had finished uploading and the video was public, my dad called down to me from downstairs and said I had a new one coming in, and here it was. And that's the thing that happens. I don't think I'm going to have that happen for this year. The only CDs that I think I have coming that haven't arrived yet are for Veilsmith's Chorus Gate and Rekindle, and those are not set to come for a couple of months yet, I think. Next up, we can go over here on this side of the shelf. Obviously, since the last update, there have been 2 new Orbital releases, so obviously, for the sake of completion, I had to get those. I now have 30-something and Optical Delusion. Optical Delusion, obviously, being the Amazon exclusive version with the 3 bonus tracks, The Crane Year, The Bat, Lost in Time. That album's still mostly holding up. I really want to see some of this stuff live. I've heard a lot of really glowing reviews about their current live set. It is a real shame that I live in Chicago in a place that they never go because it's really expensive. And 30-something, I mean, I did make a review of 30-something, and I wasn't super complimentary to it. It's, it's just a giant collection of remixes, and there's a couple of them that just do not add anything to the conversation. But I figured, again, since I have 20, since I already had that from, I think I still had this one when I did the very first update of my CD collections in like 2016. Yeah, so I figured since I have the 20 compilation, which also doesn't really add anything to the conversation, 30-something adds more to the conversation than 20 did. So I figured, well, I have all the others, may as well get that. I don't have a CD of their soundtrack to the Pentaveret because is there a CD even of that soundtrack? I'm not sure. I know they just recently announced a vinyl reissue or something. Also, I've heard bits and pieces of that soundtrack, and a lot of it is just Monsters Exist in the Box, and like little incidental pieces that are like 30 seconds long, so not really much of an album. It didn't feel like an essential purchase for me. Next up, after doing a Some Stuff I Missed roundup, I went through the catalog of Dominic Oilberg and ended up getting this CD of his album Diorama from, 2008, I want to say? Where's the date? There's got to be a date somewhere. No? I think... No, it's like 2011 or something, isn't it, actually? Christ, why can't I remember when this album came out? It's almost like I listen to a lot of music. But yeah, I mean, this is... I figured just because this album cover looked fantastic, this is gotta be something cool. And I'm not even sure if this is his best album. It's either this or Manning Faltig. And I also really liked Flora and Fauna. But this project was definitely a lot more sonically interesting than the stuff that he was putting out before, which was mostly just super straightforward techno. This got a little more well-textured and stuff. And yeah, this is a great album. I'm glad I went through that guy's catalog and checked all his stuff out. And next up, after doing a review of that last Björk album, I decided I should get a bunch of Björk CDs, and I have 6 of them now. All my personal favorites of hers. So I have Debut, I have Homogenic, I have Vespertine, I have a couple of more underrated ones here. I have Volta. This is held together with this sticker. It appears to have seen better days, but it was kind of like that when I got it. I also have Biophilia, and I have the new one. I have Fossora, because I think this one's pretty underrated. A lot of people were not a fan of that for various reasons, but I mean, I put it on my year-end list for last year, so we know I'm a fan. So I don't have Post, I don't have Volnicura, I don't have Utopia. What's the other one that I'm not thinking of? Medulla, that's the last one that I don't have. I mean, those are really good albums too, obviously. Björk does not have a miss in her catalog, but the 6 that I showed off are my 6 favorite, I would say, out of her overall catalog. Over on this side of the shelf, I can pull out this CD from The Future Sound of London. This is A Space of Partial Illumination, E7.02. yeah, since I already have all the Future Sound of London CDs, with all of these over here, I figured I need to get this. This isn't exactly one of my favorites in their catalog. Turned out to be a bit of a weirdly paced mixed bag. But there are some fantastic moments on there, like All This Has Happened Before. And this track listing only goes through How Forests Think on the back, at least that's what's credited on the back cover. I haven't actually listened to this CD version. I don't know. I just have the digital version on my iPod and stuff, so I stick with that. And still no news on is where the last volume on the trilogy is come around yet. I'm glad I eventually decided to review these albums separately, because that would mean Rituals and Space of Partial Illumination those reviews would have been supremely late if I hadn't covered them yet. If I tried to cover the whole trilogy at once. Next up over here, after doing my video on Luke Vibert's Grit and going through that guy's back catalog, I decided I ought to get a bunch of CDs from him and his various aliases. Oh dear. From his own name, I got Chicago, Detroit, Red Roof. I think this was probably my favorite project that I've heard from him overall so far. From Wagon Christ, I got Tally Ho. I don't know if that's my favorite Wagon Christ album necessarily. I haven't replayed any of them since doing my video on them, but this was the one that stuck out to me when I went through my initial marathon of them. And this one just had a lot of life and energy put into it. It's just really fun instrumental hip-hop, ninja tune, jazz breaks kind of thing. Great album, regardless. I got Plugs Back on Time, which, yeah, that is still an unfortunate album cover. I'm told that is Vibert's grandfather, so I guess it's like a really old picture of his grandfather, and he dressed like that as part of like a magician act or something, which is less... Oh shit. At the very least, that story is less pointlessly edgelordy than I suspected. But yeah, Back on Time, I sprung for this one since I think this album is significantly better than the other album he released under the name Drum and Bass for Papa. That one's more famous, but that album got kind of long-winded, and it hasn't held up as well, despite being like a big pioneering classic. Back on Time, that's just way better produced, hit a lot harder, in my opinion. And the other Luke Vibert CD I got is Carrier District. Got one from all the major aliases. This is nice for some like disco and deep house and stuff, and that was a fun listen. And since I'm looking over this part of the shelf, I can pick up this collection that's like right next to it. I got the entire collection, the entire studio album discography from Tim Hecker, so that's cool. Initially I was only just going to get my favorites from him after the No Highs album came out, and I already had Harmony and Ultraviolet here before this. But one order I got on accident sent me his debut album, Haunt Me, Do It Again, which I believe is my least favorite of his albums overall. So I decided, okay, if I have this one, then I just gotta get all of them. And I ended up getting all of them. So I have Haunt Me, Do It Again. I have Radio Amor. That one's great. I have Mirages. I have a soft spot for that one in particular, even though it's not the kind of thing you would ordinarily expect me to be into. Harmony and Ultraviolet again. I have An Imaginary Country. That one grew on me quite a bit when I put it on last time. Rave Death 1972. We got Virgins. We got Love Screams, another really underrated one in my opinion. We got Konoyo and Anoyo. And we got the new one, No Highs. And yeah, I should also mention, whenever the time comes for me to, like, inevitably do, like, a proper discography review on Tim Hecker, I think I'm gonna have to do a proper video on Anoyo, because when I listen to them, even though Konoyo and Anoyo are pretty much the same album made out of the same ingredients, and I can see why, like, some people would think it's kind of pointless to count Anoyo as a main album. When I actually listen to both of them, Anoyo is better. Like, markedly better. It's the same elements, but they're paced a lot better. The Konoyo has a bunch of parts in it that, like, really drag, and Anoyo was just all around better put together. I haven't come back to the new one all that much since putting up my video. Maybe I should, since, you know, I'm still hearing a lot of positive buzz around it. Maybe that's I could let that one click with me more. So that's neat. On the other side of the shelf over here again, well, I already talked about new Orbital releases. There is, of course, a new Orb album. So, of course, I had to get a CD of that. Here is Prism. Still got mixed feelings on this project. It's really not one of the absolute best entrants in their catalog, but it does have a lot of fantastic moments on it. Obviously, Living in Recycled Times, High Orbs, Mini Earths. The Where's Gary one also, if not for the samples about that, if not for those voice samples that are talking about Where's Gary, if not for those, that would be one of the absolute best too. And it still kind of is, but yeah, I think I've talked about kind of Dr. Alex's choice in voice samples is starting to feel a little complacent and lazy these days. There's an art to that stuff as well, and he's picking some, like, really obvious drug references, and I mean, you can go a little more out of the box than that, come on. And also, right next to this, since this was a Patreon request that turned out to really resonate with me on a deeper level, of course I have to get Floex's Zoria. This one definitely took a while to come in, because I bought it right off of the Minority Records label, and first a copy got lost in transit, but because they're based in Czech Republic, so I guess that kind of thing, sending a CD all the way over here may not be the easiest thing, but at the same time when they just sent me another copy when I asked them about it, and that came in a lot faster, so I don't know, maybe I'm just got unlucky there for a while. Fantastic album in any case, and out to be checking it out if you haven't already. Okay, what else we got here? I got a new CD from Moby. I got his most recognizable classic, Play. Yeah, it took me until now to get a CD of... it took me until this year to actually get a CD of Play. I already had a CD of 18 and a CD of Last Night before that. Play, it's a classic album. It's the one album from Moby that's, like, most people can agree upon is really good without, like, arguing about it. It's not my personal favorite of his projects. Again, there's others. But it has a lot of his most recognizable tracks. Again, someday I'll have to do a discography review on him just because the discussion around him would be particularly interesting. There's... every album of his has its fans and has its detractors. Play is, like, the one that people can agree upon, and, like, there's no others that people can, like, universally agree upon as like, this is a good album. Maybe everything is wrong. That's even that, I don't know. While we're on the topic of more commercial artists, I wasn't expecting to spring for this, but I ended up getting the entire box set for Röyksopp's Profound Mysteries trilogy. Yeah, this is volume 1, 2, and 3. All of them. I definitely stand by my opinions in the reviews that this trilogy didn't absolutely need to be a trilogy. I've kept around just like half the track listing from this trilogy, which like translated to like 13 tracks, adding up to like an 80-minute double album or something like that, or 70 minutes, I don't know. But I've come back to that particular track listing, that custom track listing that I put together, quite a lot. There's a lot of filler in this trilogy. There's a lot of tracks that just aren't really, that I don't really have any strong feelings on, but there's so many of their best tracks, like, ever, so even if I do still believe Melody AM and Junior are better conceived as complete wholes than any of the 3 albums that went into here, I will have to admit, yeah, the stuff that's good on here is really good and was worth going out of my way to spring for. But while I'm on the topic of things that I was never expecting to pick up, I can also pull out that I really was not expecting to ever get a CD copy of this album, or compilation rather. Look at that. Drexciya The Quest. Yes, this is a compilation of, like, just a whole bunch of, like, EPs, early tracks and stuff. This was the project that really first got me into anything Drexciya related, before, like, it more than Neptune's Lair, which I already had the CD of, I showed in the last volume. I specifically was not expecting to ever get a copy of this because this is super rare. Most of the copies that have been on sale on Discogs and stuff were like hundreds of dollars. They were just way overpriced because they were so, like, they're so hard to find in this day and age. But somehow I came across a reseller on Discogs who is offering this for like $60, which is still pretty dang expensive, but it was, compared to all the prices that I had seen, it felt reasonable, and I felt like, I want this in my collection. This is the most reasonable price I've ever seen for this, and I went out and bought it. And now I have Drexciya's The Quest. I still can't believe I have that. Fantastic collection of Detroit techno. Definitely worth hearing if you haven't. Now, back over on this side of the shelf, well, obviously I just finished my series on Mike Paradinas, so we know that I already have this. His 2013 album, Chewed Corners. Yeah, I got this one while working on the series for him, because this is, like I said, this is my 4th favorite of his albums, and it's my favorite thing he's put out in the last couple of decades, I want to say. So that was worth keeping around in my CD collection. And another one that I can grab from the same part of the shelf over here. Another one that I really was not expecting to ever spring for. Odessa, The Last Goodbye. Yeah, this album ended up resonating with me strongly enough where I actually felt the want to go out and get a CD of it. I'm not typically an Odessa fan. I've always found them to be, like, you know, a little too commercial and In Return and Moment Apart, I feel are a little overpraised among the fans and the EDM community. And those albums just never really did it for me outside of a couple of moments. But The Last Goodbye was the first one where it feels like Odessa really started to click with me, especially thanks to tracks like the title track and Light of Day on this thing that just went for an erased tapes kind of sound. Yeah, I guess this album made me a fan of Odessa when I wasn't really sold on them on their previous projects. This is definitely still not a perfect album by any stretch. I still don't like, and there's still a couple of tracks on here like Healing Grid especially that I'm not a fan of, and it's definitely more front-loaded. I stand by all the stuff that I said in my review of it, but yeah, I have warm enough feelings towards this album that I ended up buying it. And I think all the rest should be on this side of the shelf. One project that I got was another from a Patreon request that ended up doing a lot for me. Fila Brasilia's Maim That Tune. Yes, this one. This is a really nice collection of Ninja Tune-y jazz breaks, except it's not on Ninja Tune. It's just, got the sound of that label, the early days of that label, and it's just really freaking good for what it is, especially the track At Home in Space. I still keep coming back to that one, and the whole album. I have yet to listen to a lot of the rest of their albums. I've only listened to 2 others since doing my video on this one. I listened to their debut, Old Codes, New Chaos, and I listened to the album they came out with after this one, Mess. Those 2 are really good too. Yeah, I'll have to get around to listening to the rest of their albums at some point. Obviously, it hasn't been top priority, with all the other stuff I've been working on, but yeah, Fila Brasilia have been a nice discovery for sure. And speaking of Patreon requests, since the last CD update, I think I showed off Panther Du Prince's This Bliss, but I got 2 more CDs from Panther Du Prince as well, after going through the rest of his catalog for Some Stuff I Missed segment. I also picked up Diamond Days and Conference of Trees. These 2 albums are also excellent, and I might like Diamond Days more than This Bliss. They're all really close, for what it's worth. All 3 of these albums are fantastic. This is just a lot more a kind of a darker minimal techno kind of sound than this one, which kind of got a little more delicate and melodic. And then this one is much later, by the time he'd evolved all the way into making modern classical and stuff, but it was just such an evocative blend of it. These are all fantastic projects that are all worth hearing. They're my favorites that I heard from him. Alright, I don't think there's too many left. One I can pull out is this album over here, Ryuichi Sakamoto's Async from 2017. R.I.P. to that guy once again. I obviously bought this after the announcement of his passing, and after I had done my video going through the guy's entire back catalog, both on his own and with YMO. Maybe someday I'll get some other projects from him, I don't know. I do have mixed feelings on the specific way I handled my review of his final album, 12. I don't regret the way I did, to be fair, because we didn't know yet that was going to be his final album. It definitely had the feeling like it could have been, and I knew that while I was covering it, but we didn't know. So, if I were to cover that now, and now knowing that was really going to be his Black Star, as it were, I don't know if I would have actually given it a rating. But I guess it is what it is. In any case, One thing I do know for sure, though, is that even though I stand by all the stuff that I said in my review of 12, I do prefer this album quite a bit. I think this was actually my favorite out of all the albums that I sat through in his catalog, because this just had, not only did it have kind of some of the same themes of mortality as 12 did, even if they weren't like as openly present, they just got a lot more experimental, a lot more interesting. There's just some ideas on this album that I hadn't really heard on any other ones. This is just kind of a masterpiece. It's definitely, if I had heard it in 2017, that absolutely would have been one of my favorite albums of that year. Alright, on a less heavy note, there are some, I think there's only 2 CDs left for me to bring up. The most recent CD that I got a couple weeks ago, I think, 2 weeks ago, according to Discogs, I picked up this CD of Square Pusher's Just a Souvenir. I don't know what possessed me to put this album on for the first time in a while. This is one of those albums that is like just super divisive among the fan base, and like some people love it and some people hate it, and because it's not like the strongest of his production. The guitars and all the distortion on it is a little, even that isn't necessarily always to my taste. But this album honestly kind of grew on me too when I put it on last. Because there is just no albums that sound like this. Just that weird mix of jazz and rock and electronic and drum and bass. And it's just such a unique blend that no album either in Square Pusher's catalog or any other artist, no one has ever made something that sounds like this. Maybe next update I'll end up having the rest of the Square Pusher CDs. Maybe not. You never know. Square Pusher is one of my favorite artists, and as of now I still only have like just my personal favorite of his albums. Just a Souvenir was my favorite of his albums that I didn't already have a CD of, so behind, Feed Me Weird Things, Hard Normal Daddy, Music Has Rotted One Note, Hello Everything, Ultra Visitor, and Eufabulum. Guy has just so many great albums. And even some of his worst albums are at least interesting to listen to and have some cool stuff in them. I haven't listened to Be Up a Hello in a while. I feel like maybe I should give that another chance sometime. And I think that there's only one left to talk about. This is probably the most obscure artist that is going to be mentioned in this video. Whoops. That is going to be this. This is Give Me Monaco. This is a compilation of his Inferno and Luminance EPs. This is a super limited edition. There's only 10 copies available, but you can still buy them. There's still a couple available last I checked, for anyone who wants those. These two EPs, Inferno and Luminance, were just some fantastic collections of like micro house and just kind of some abstract techno type stuff, really uplifting, kind of, I don't know. His stuff like just kept progressively getting better and better textured. His groove construction keeps getting better. The guy's really underrated, and that's also where this little keychain thing came from as well. There's no way this is gonna come up on camera, but there's the letters GMM printed into the back half of this. But that's cool. If you want to support Give Me Monaco, there's still copies of this compilation available, I believe. Alright, and if I'm not mistaken, that is finally all the CDs that I purchased in the last 12 months. Yeah. As this has been fun to do as always. We'll see how my CD purchasing habits go and where how I end up putting them on my shelf next year, I guess. But yeah, Thanks for supporting me, as per usual. It's nice to be still doing this channel after 8 years. And yeah, I never know how to end these videos, but I think I'm gonna leave it at that. And yeah, that's all for today. See you next time.